Well, welcome to Marking the End Times. I'm Mark Hitchcock, and thank you so much for joining us for this week's program. Today, I want to talk about an event that literally exploded across the global headlines on Tuesday. I'm sure by now all of you have heard about the pagers that were simultaneously detonated across Lebanon and even a bit into Syria on Tuesday. I want to talk about what happened. I want to talk about why did it happen now? And I want to talk about some of the geopolitical and prophetic ramifications of this. Could this lead to the Northern War that so many people have been predicting? Could it even escalate to a larger regional war? So I want to talk about that on today's program. Now, before we get into today's content, let me just mention that in a little bit, we'll go to the subscriber-only section and have some really good questions to answer. One question is, my friend wonders how so many good people can be condemned to hell for either having believed in another religion, such as Islam, or those who don't know about Jesus at all. The God we believe in surely is not that cruel. Another question related to the afterlife, and this is a question we get a lot here at endtimes.com, and I want to give what I think is a pretty complete answer to this today. If heaven is a place of joy and happiness, will we be reunited with our beloved pets we had here in this life on earth? And then a final question, is the lie of Romans 1:25 the same lie as 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 11? So we'll go to that subscriber-only section in a bit and answer these questions. Exploding pagers all across Lebanon grabbed the attention of the entire world on Tuesday. People were shocked to see videos of people having a device explode on them or near them. In one instance, very graphic video that I'm sure has gone viral, closed-circuit surveillance video carried by regional broadcasters showed a man paying at a grocery store what appeared to be using a small handheld device that he placed near the cashier that exploded, causing him to fall to the floor in great distress. Presently, from these exploding pagers, currently as I'm doing this video, 12 people have died. Nearly 3,000 others were wounded, 200 of them critically injured. Most of the dead and the wounded are Hezbollah fighters or leaders. Now, this attack involved an elaborate scheme by Israel, although Israel has not taken responsibility for this attack. Everybody knows Israel's behind it, but Israel is being quiet about all of this. But the sophistication and impact of targeting these pagers is really unprecedented. Now, this scheme goes all the way back to February of 2024. A televised speech back in February, the Hezbollah Secretary General, Hassan Nasrallah, told its members that their phones were more dangerous than Israeli spies. And he told them all this is a quote, to break, bury, or lock their phones in an iron box. In other words, get rid of these things because these could be used by Israel to track their location. So to replace the phones, the group opted to distribute pagers to Hezbollah members across the group's various branches to enhance their communication. Now, these pagers are kind of a low-tech means of communication, but again, they adopted this to try to evade Israeli location tracking. Now, these pagers came from a Taiwanese company called Gold Apollo. They were evidently constructed, though, in Europe, in Budapest, Hungary. So the contract's with a Taiwanese company, but they're assembled in Budapest, Hungary. Now, what's clear, at least at this point, is that Israel's Mossad, the Israeli spy agency, infiltrated the supply chain at some point and injected explosive materials right next to the battery in about 5,000 devices. And the explosives then would be activated by coded messages. Now, Wednesday, in breaking news, and really it's breaking right as I'm making this video right now, is there's been a second wave of attacks. And the handheld radios now have begun exploding all over Lebanon. So what's happened is, with these pagers exploding, so to back up a little bit, they had cell phones. They got rid of those for pagers. Now with these pagers exploding, they've gotten rid of the pagers and gone to just handheld radios, really kind of like walkie-talkies. And now these are beginning to explode all over Lebanon. So these are emergency communication systems that are being used in place of the exploding pagers. They're kind of a walkie-talkie that's made by a company called Icon. And it's being reported that some of these are exploding at funerals for those who died in the pager attacks. So while I'm making this video, at least 3 people have died from these handheld radio explosions. So in an article by Reuters, they kind of summarized all this in 5 simple bullet points. Let me just read these for us because this kind of summarizes the facts. 12 killed, 3,000 wounded in unprecedented security breach. Hezbollah ordered pagers months ago, vows retaliation. Pagers made by Europe firm BAC, Taiwan-based firm, says devices modified by Israel at production stage, Lebanon security sources said. And the final point, Israel makes no comment. So that's kind of the basic facts here of what has happened. But again, it's an ongoing story because, if they have to go from these handheld walkie-talkies to something else, are those also going to be able to be detonated as well? So the big questions right now to me are, what impact will this have? Does it raise prospects for a wider war? And why now? Why did Israel do this now? So let me just mention a few of these impacts. I think this is going to have a dramatic psychological impact. I'm sure it already is there in Lebanon. This is Israel sending a message to create fear and uncertainty, to create panic. Basically, they're telling members of Hezbollah, we can get you no matter where you are. This is similar to the assassination of the Hamas leader in his private apartment in Tehran, in Iran. That we can hunt you down and find you wherever you are. It's a sobering message, I think, to the leader of Hezbollah named Nasrallah. That we have you in our crosshairs, Israel's saying. We can take you out. One independent military political analyst said this. He said, these explosions are powerful enough to severely hit the psychology of Hezbollah. Think about how this will create distrust among the rank and file Hezbollah members with their leadership who allowed this to happen. It's going to make Hezbollah members afraid to turn on their car ignition. Is their car going to blow up? Use their toaster, open their refrigerator. They're going to be living in constant fear that something around them is going to explode. I think another psychological effect of this is to drive a wedge between the Lebanese public and Hezbollah. Many in Lebanon don't support Hezbollah. They cause them nothing but strife and trouble and discomfort. And so this may cause ordinary citizens in Lebanon to keep their distance from any Hezbollah leaders or fighters. So there's just that psychological impact. There's a communication impact. The U.S. government is saying that the main point in this from Israel, the main aim of these attacks was a massive disruption of Hezbollah's communications. This communication disruption may signal an imminent attack by Israel on Hezbollah while these internal communications are in disarray. So Israel may be taking out their means to communicate kind of in advance of an attack on Hezbollah. This also is having what I call a provocative impact. Israel may be doing this to try to goad and provoke Hezbollah into an escalating response against Israel to give Israel then the justification to go in and clean out southern Lebanon. One Hezbollah official said that this incident was the greatest security breach for Hezbollah in nearly a year of conflict with Israel. Remember, we've talked about this before, that communities all over northern Israel have been abandoned. 60,000 Jewish people have been displaced from northern Israel because of the ongoing kind of back and forth between Hezbollah and Israel. Right now, 60 rockets a day are being fired by Hezbollah into northern Israel. 5 days before this pager attack, Israeli President Prime Minister Netanyahu said a political statement will not achieve the goal of returning Israeli citizens to their homes in northern Israel. He said, Israel is preparing for a broad campaign. So this may be in preparation for that. Israel Defense Minister Yoav Gallant said this, military action is the only way to ensure the return of Israel's northern communities. There's a report, a headline from Reuters that says Hezbollah vows to punish Israel. Here's what that article says. Militant group Hezbollah promised to retaliate against Israel after accusing it of detonating pagers across Lebanon on Tuesday. Lebanese Information Minister Ziad Makari condemned the late afternoon detonation of the pagers. Handheld devices that Hezbollah and others in Lebanon used to send messages. He called it an Israeli aggression. Hezbollah said Israel would receive its fair punishment for the blasts. And we know that to save face, Hezbollah is going to have to do something to retaliate against Israel. And again, then Israel can use this as a justification to really go into southern Lebanon and start a war there. A publication called First Post has a headline that says, "Will Lebanon pager blast trigger a full-scale conflict between Israel and Hezbollah?" And in that article, it says this: "The alleged Israeli attack on members of Hezbollah via their pagers is another ominous development propelling the Middle East towards a full-scale regional war. It leaves Hezbollah with little option but to retaliate with the full support of the Iran-led axis of resistance." The article says this: "As Hezbollah vows revenge, the risk of a full-scale conflict between Israel and the Iran-backed axis of resistance looms larger." And then here's one final quote: "The simultaneous pager explosions on Tuesday may be a prelude to an all-out Israeli offensive against Hezbollah." One of the people that was injured in this pager attack was the Israeli ambassador to Lebanon. He suffered an injury from this, and that's just additional strong evidence of how embedded Iran is in all of this. And of course, we know from the scriptures that Iran, ancient Persia, is one of the Gog-Magog conspirators in the Ezekiel 38-39 war. And Iran is already at war with Israel through its proxies like Hezbollah. Hezbollah is the strongest of Iran's surrogates in this region. They're the most powerful ones, certainly for sure. But all this that's happening is a prelude. It's a dress rehearsal for Ezekiel 38 and 39. The setup continues. The setup is escalating. A war is coming. But much more importantly, Jesus is coming. And that's our hope that we have in these times in which we live. And my prayer is that he will come quickly. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. And we're going to go now to the subscriber-only section. If you're not a subscriber, you'd like to become one, you can go to endtimes.com and you can sign up there. I think it'll be a great investment in your spiritual life if you'll do that. And we'll go to the subscriber-only section. We'll answer these questions now that I referred to earlier.